For today's video, I'll be diving deeper into the Hougoumount newspapers that I've previously covered very briefly. I'll be reading the newspapers in its entirety, and there will be additional texts when something that's related to the lore is revealed. And I'll add text explaining how it fits in the timeline. Without further ado, let's begin. Peace under unpleasing circumstance. Vienna, April 16th. News from English diplomats. Extracted from Vienna. At 10 o'clock on May 1st, an agreement was reached between Britain, her allies, and the French Empire. After a ceasefire dating almost 2 years, the French have sued for peace, or rather, an exchange of goods and a short window of peace. The French have agreed to exchange an undisclosed amount of guns to the coalition forces, the return of many countries' prisoners of war, in the return for guaranteed peace. Although it seems Napoleon's armée has crippled itself, various foreign countries and French client states warn of a dire situation in mainland Europe. The Austrian Empire has reported numerous cases of the blight, devastating villages in her northern territories. Russian, Danish, and Swedish communications have been dead silent for months. Experts fear the worst possible outcome. After Britain's hasty evacuation from Spain, we feared the war had been lost. However, it seems this plague has crippled mainland Europe. Although Britannia remains unaffected by the grips of the plague, our port quarantine remains in place. New regulations have prohibited commercial trade from Europe. No reports of the plague have been reported in England. Trade deals with the United States. As the blight rips through Europe, it kicked His Majesty's economy into the gutter. Rising scarcity and prices of imported goods have stirred up quite the disaster for ordinary blokes all over England. Britannia has no place to turn but to the United States. Parliament approved of a new deal with the newly born infant, the United States of America. Although the wounds from only months ago still run red, both of our nations are up to give up our grudges for the survival of our wallets. The United States Congress expressed great uncertainty regarding quarantine measures. However, they were assured of a healthy, strict, and secure Britain. The first shipment is expected to arrive this week at Dover. It shall consist of an undesignated amount of lumber and 1 ton of dried fish. Ship quarantine off Dover. Crews suspected to be down with blight. British Army mobilizes to aid her allies. Regarding the peace agreement, Britain is to re-enter continental Europe to provide aid and supplies to ill-stricken countries. Multiple rumors have been floating around related to the sufferers of the plague being undead man-eating freaks. His Grace, the Duke of Wellington, has addressed the public and exclaimed that he is furious that such rumors are being floated around. He has assured us the afflicted are simply suffering some disease related to the Black Death. However, it isn't sitting right with Englishmen that the entire army is being called to arms to work as hospital maids. We were able to receive an exclusive look into the task from an anonymous tip. The latter reads this. English forces are to march to the south of Brussels. There, they will meet Blücher and his men, but utmost shockingly, Napoleon Bonaparte and his forces will attend with them. From there, the armies will tear through the plague and liberate Europe. Why is it always the blight? A fair many amount of uneducated readers have written to me. Why must it always be foreign news? We simply don't care. And to that I respond, if we are to stop ourselves from being informed, we are savages. Nothing more than pigs rolling in mud. We must consume the news, we must learn more. For it matters what we see, but it also matters what we don't. The horrors of this world must be put onto full display, so we're prepared for them. We must acknowledge every single one. It's painful to hear, yes, but it's our duty as a civilized citizen of the first world. James Bankman, the voice of reason. List of those deemed missing after evacuation of Spain. Official army list of those missing. Alexander Birmingham, Victoria. Alexander Smith, San Sebastian. Arthur Callingham, San Sebastian. Andrew Rogers Barry-Williams, San Sebastian. Benjamin Connor, Victoria. Blake Ramham, Victoria. Carson Smith, Victoria. Caleb O'Boyle, Pyrenees. Charlie Graham, Victoria. Charles Cunningham, unknown. First-hand account of the Blight, Dover, April 3rd. Robert Smith, of the 5th Division, miraculously escaped San Sebastian, a city ravaged by war and the plague, a first-hand account of what he experienced. We pursued the French forces from Victoria. The French entrenched themselves into a large town surrounded by walls. It was named San Sebastian, apparently. Not that I heard any chaps call it by its proper name. We breached their hornwork and me and a couple of my lads were grabbed by their sappers. The French grabbed us, disarmed us, and dragged us up the city and to a fort on the mountain, all behind the walls of the city. They threw us into a cell with a couple of Portuguese lads. We sat there for a good day or two. Next day we heard a bang. Our fellows must have made their way into the city. That night one of the French officers yelled at us, locked us up, and told us not to utter a word. We heard a great deal of French screaming that night. The French unlocked the cell door, a couple of them argued, and they armed us. One must figure you'd have to get the marbles shaken out of you if you're willing to give your mortal enemy pistols. We met the cannibals, who would eat you if they could put a hand on you. They were rotting, like carcasses. Some said they were the undead. The French said, well, we couldn't understand the bloody word the French were saying. We had a Portuguese translator, but the cannibals got their teeth into him. Peculiarly, if they sunk their teeth into you, one becomes cannibal as well. A couple of chaps cheered because they got to legally discharge their afflicted officer. Anyways, pushed ourselves down the fort to the city. I've never seen more men die in a single hour. We made our way through the city, all while the cannibal blighters tried to apprehend us. We reached the edge of the city and found the hornwork surrounding it. We couldn't get to the hole we'd originally blown through, and we couldn't find a proper exit for the life of us. We were about to ready to dive into the water when we met a lad a floor above us. He used one of our supply hoists to lower us to the ground from the top of the hornwork. Poor fool was torn to shreds before you could blink your own eyes. Another fellow went up to lower it all the way down. He didn't make it either. A jolly boat picked us up, what little remained of us at least. We were brought to the HMS Undaunted. The captain welcomed us on board. Before we were even a mile or two out of the fort, one of our guys fell to the plague. The fellow ripped into the captain. We rowed back to the shore. We parted ways with our French counterparts. We traveled through the countryside. We saw more cannibals south of the city, and once we reached a good miles, we reached Spanish guerrillas. They showed us to the army. We made our way there, and we sailed out of Spain. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little deep dive into the Hougoumount newspapers. Until next time.